When was the last time something
Men and
really
women have been
excited
concerned
you?
about money since
Excited
the
you
first
so
coin was
much
fashioned
that you
in
couldn't
Asia
wait to
Minor
share it with
about
others.
700 BC.
Often, such a reaction
You
can
might
be
say that
triggered by
money
the
is like good
simplest and
health,
most obvious
in
things,
that we're concerned about
like a tiny
it to
puppy,
the extent
or
that we
falling in
don't
love,
have it.
or renewing an
The
old
purpose
friendship.
of this message is to get down
The
to
great
the basics,
ideas
to
in
clear the
Lead
air
the
surrounding
Field
the entire
can
subject
have that
of money.
effect on us too.
And to do this,
They can
I'm going to have
turn
to
our
get
lives
absolutely
upside
elementary.
down.
And while you may already
Suddenly,
know most
the
of the
lights
things
are
I'm going
turned
to say,
on,
I think it's
and we can
important
see the
that we
world
remind
much more
ourselves
clearly.
just exactly what money
Opportunities
is,
take on new luster,
how much of it is
even
enough,
though they have
and
been
how to
there
earn
all
the
the
amount of
time,
money you need
unnoticed,
to live
waiting
the way
for the
you
great
want to
idea
live
to make
now
them
and
glow.
in the important future years.
The multifaceted career of Earl Nightingale, author and narrator of
begin,
Lead the Field,
let's get rid of
is
the
an
old
affirmation
myth,
of
once
the
and for
effect
all,
of
that
great
money is
ideas on
bad
our
or
lives
unimportant.
and the
It is
degree
not
of
bad,
success we
and it
attain.
is important. It's
As a
vitally
teenager,
important.
Earl
It's just
saw
as
the plight of
important
his
as the
family
food
and
clothes
friends
it
in the
buys,
worst
the
of the
shelter it
Depression.
affords,
At
the
that time, he
education it
couldn't afford
provides,
any
and the
books.
doctor's bills it pays.
So he began seeking
Money
the
is
answers,
important to any person
the keys
living in
to a better
civilized
life in
society.
his local library.
To argue and split hairs
And
to
as a
the effect that
voracious
it's
reader,
not as
he kept
important as
searching
other
the
things
rest
is
of his
absurd.
life.
Nothing will take the place
After
of
serving
money
as a U.S.
in the
Marine in
area
World
in
War
which
II,
money works.
Earl
And
became
that's
a
all there is
well-known
to it.
broadcast
What
personality
is money?
and was
Money
inducted
is
into the Radio
harvest
Hall of Fame.
our production.
For his many
Money is
achievements
what we
as an
receive for our
entrepreneur,
production and
writer,
service
public
as
speaker,
persons,
recording artist, and
which we
radio
can
and
then
television
use to
commentator,
obtain the
he
production
also
and
won a
services
gold
of
record
others.
for the LP The
We can quite
Strangest
often
Secret,
accurately
for
gauge
sales
the
exceeding
extent
a
of our
million
production
copies,
and service
the
by
Golden
simply
Gavel
counting the
Award
amount
from
of money we
Toastmasters
receive for it.
International,
You'll
the
hear people
Napoleon
say,
Hill
"Money
Foundation
won't
Gold
bring
Medal
happiness."
Award for Literary
The earning
Excellence,
and possession of money
and was
has brought a
inducted
lot
into
more
the
happiness
International
than has
Speakers Hall of
poverty.
Fame.
Money is a warm
He
home
authored
and healthy
numerous
children.
audio and video
It's birthday
programs,
presents and a
more than
college
7,000
education.
radio
It's
and
a trip
television
abroad and the
commentaries,
means to help
and
older
2
people and the less
best-selling books.
fortunate. We're not saying that
In
piling
Lead
up
the
a lot of
Field,
wealth is important.
Earl
What we're
Nightingale
saying
will
is
lead
that
you
money
down
is
new
important
paths and
because
old
it's
familiar
the only
trails.
reward which is
You'll
completely
rediscover the
negotiable
power of
and
words
can be
like
used by everyone.
attitude and service
Look at it this way.
and goals
A diamond
and
is more
commitment.
valuable than a lump
You
of
learn the
coal.
use of
Yet that's
intelligent
exactly what a diamond
objectivity
was at one time.
and the benefit of
And
being
just as a lump of
constructively
coal can be
discontented.
transformed into one of the world's
And with
most
each
valuable
repeated
gems,
listening,
a human
you'll
being
unearth
can
new
vastly
gems from
increase
these
his or her
acres
own
of
value
diamonds.
to the world. Try to
Hundreds
remember
of
this formula.
thousands of men and
The
women
amount of
have
money we
benefited over the
receive
years
will
from this
always be in
treasury of
direct
great
ratio
ideas
to
and
the
sound.
demand for what we do, our
Lead the
ability to do
Field
it,
is the
and the
synthesis
difficulty
of a
of
lifetime
replacing
of
it.
research, reading, and refining by Earl
A highly
Nightingale.
skilled human being
Starting
is
with your
worth more
first
money
session,
in our
the
economy
magic
than a
word.
person who is not
The
highly
messages
skilled
you're about
and
to
who can
hear
be
are
easily
widely
replaced.
considered
Now, this is not
all-time
to say that
classics
one person is
in the
any
field
better
of
than
personal
the other person
development.
or more important. Remember that in this message, we're only talking about money, nothing else. A janitor
This is Earl
just as
Nightingale
important
with
as a
Lead the
human being
Field.
as a brain surgeon. But the
This
amount of
program
money
is
they
about
earn will be
12
proportional to
ideas
the
that will
demand
bring
for what
order
they
and
do,
success
their
into our
ability
lives.
to do what they do,
These ideas
and
will
the
work
difficulty
wonders
of replacing
regardless
them.
of what we
A
choose
person
as the
can be
main
trained
thrust of
to
our
clean and
lives.
maintain the
For
building
these
in
are
a
the
few
great
weeks.
ideas that have
And
evolved
replacing
over the
the person is not
centuries,
difficult.
and together they form
A
a
brain surgeon spent many
constellation
years
by which
learning
you
his
and I
profession,
can safely
often
and
at great personal
successfully
sacrifice
navigate.
and at extremely high cost, and he cannot be easily replaced. As
The
a
great
result,
Spanish
the
philosopher
surgeon might
Ortega
earn as much
reminded
money
us
in an
that
hour
we human
as
beings
a janitor
are the
might
only
earn in a
creatures
year.
on the planet Earth
Now, these are
that are
extreme
born
cases
into a
used to
natural
show the
state
relation
of
income to demand,
disorientation
skill,
with our
and
world.
supply. And this
That
as
is,
it
while
should
all
be.
other
This is
creatures
why
are
there
guided
few
by
limitations
instinct
on a
of which they're
person
neither
within
aware
his or
nor
her
have the
company and
capacity to
industry.
question.
Their income
Each of
should
us,
be in
as
exact
human
proportion to
creatures,
the demand for what
was
they
given
do,
the godlike
their
power
ability
to
do
create
what they
his
do,
or
and
her
the
own
difficulty of
life.
replacing them.
And
That's why
each
the
of us
whole
does
idea of trying to
exactly
get something
that
for nothing
over
is
the years
ridiculous
of
and won't
his
work.
or her life.
A top jockey
Every
will earn a
day
great
we
deal
put
of
in
money
place
every year,
actions
which
and
will represent about
ideas that will
10% of
determine the
winnings
shape
of the
and
horses he
substance
rides. You
of
might
our
say riding a
tomorrows.
horse serves no useful
For
purpose.
some, those
But the
ideas
demand is
and
there.
actions
Just run
lead
out.
inevitably
It's
to
the same with the
extraordinary
star in show
achievement
business.
and rewards.
His or her income will
For
very
most,
accurately
they
reflect
tend
the
to lead to a
demand for
kind of
what he or she
middle
does.
ground in
which great numbers of people take their cues from each other without question or consideration.
Important.
And for some,
Luck is being
those
defined,
actions
as
and
we
ideas
mentioned,
lead to
as what
repeated
happens when
frustration
preparedness
and problems
meets
as they spend their lives in the bottom
Great
layers
opportunity will
of the
only make the
socioeconomic
unprepared, the
pyramid.
unqualified appear ridiculous.
Success or failure
For
as a
every
human
one of us,
being is
opportunities
not a matter
are
of
all around
luck
us.
or
Our ability to see
circumstance
them
or fate
will depend in
or the
large part
breaks or
on how
who
well
you
we've
know
prepared
or any of the
ourselves.
other tiresome old myths
How do you stack up
and
in this regard?
cliches by which the ignorant
Why
tend
would
to
any sound
excuse
elementary?
themselves. You'd be amazed.
It's a matter of following a common-sense paradigm of rules, guidelines anyone can follow.
Until they qualify it,
This program, Lead the Field, has changed more lives, brought about more success stories, helped create more millionaires, saved more careers, important jobs, and marriages than any other program ever produced. And the rules we talk about here don't change. They apply to any situation, under any and all circumstances. We never have to say, I wonder what'll work in this particular situation. All we have to do is make these ideas our own.
Often two of them, radio, TV, savings account.
And we begin with what I call the magic word.
Wonderful. Their beds are just
we all want good results from life in our home, our work, and in all our contacts with other people.
Maybe more.
And the most important single factor to guarantee good results day in, day out, all the months and years of our lives, is a healthy attitude.
With only a fraction of the world's
attitude is the magic word.
Have half.
Attitude is defined as the position or bearing as indicating action, feeling, or mood. And it is our actions, feelings, or moods which determine the actions, feelings, and moods of others. Our attitude tells the world what we expect in return. If it's a cheerful, expectant attitude, it says to everyone with whom we come in contact that we expect the best in our dealings with our world.
And settle for a lot less than they could earn.
We tend to live up to our expectations.
The world will pay
and
you
others give to us as far as their attitudes are concerned,
what you earn,
what we expect.
But not a penny more.
Our attitude is something we can control. We can establish our attitude each morning when we start our day. In fact, we do just that whether we realize it or not. And the people in our family, all the people in our world will reflect back to us the attitude we present to them.
If you don't like your income,
it is then our attitude toward life which determines life's attitude toward us, cause,
your ability,
and effect.
Energy.
Everything we say or do will cause a corresponding effect. If we're cheerful, glad to be experiencing this miracle of life, others will reflect that good cheer back to us.
And a person who's
we are the kind of person others enjoy being around.
It's the same with this business.
You and I are responsible for our lives. You and I produce causes all day long, every day of our lives. The environment can only return to us a corresponding effect. That's why I say each of us determines the quality of his or her own life. We get back what we put out.
They don't understand that.
Here's a way to test the past quality of your attitude.
When we receive the
would you say people tend to react to you in a smiling, positive manner with friendly greetings when you appear? Your answer to that question will tell the story.
Satisfaction and
I remember the time when a man and his wife bought a home across the street from me in Florida. They had moved there from Minnesota. They planned the move for years. They were tired of the northern winters, and he was an avid fisherman.
How much money we really want.
Several months passed after their move, and one day I was surprised to see them packing.
The second step
I walked across the street and asked the man if they were leaving so soon after they made the move. He nodded. My wife hates it here, he said. We're going back home. I asked him how in the world his wife could hate it there, what his wife didn't like about the place. And with a few questions, the truth came out.
It's not more difficult.
She hasn't been accepted here, he said. The other women in the community have left her strictly alone. She's made no friends. She hasn't been asked to participate in any of the community activities.
Realizing that the amount I earn will be an exact proportion.
So I asked him, has she let the other women know she's interested in participating in community activities?
Decide upon. One,
he stopped what he was doing and looked at me.
Earn now or in the near future.
No, he said, no, she hasn't.
Money we want to have.
She's been waiting for the women to ask her.
And the amount of money we want.
And since she stayed in the house, waiting for them to come to her,
work or not,
they've thought of her as reclusive, as a person who's not interested in making friends. So they've left her alone.
Any of these three amounts of money.
Well, there was a long silence, and he began nodding.
On these three amounts.
Yes, that's exactly what's happened, he
said. To carry with you or put somewhere where you can.
Yes, the women of the neighborhood should have come to her and introduced themselves or invited her to a tea or luncheon. But they were reacting to her. She didn't know that the community could only give her back.
You'll know where you're going.
A reflection of her own attitude.
About it, you'll most.
Here was a woman in her 60s who had never learned the first important rule for successful living. That our surroundings will always reflect us, that our environment is a mirror, often a merciless mirror, of ourselves.
That they've missed the boat.
As soon as a person begins to change, his or her surroundings will change. And it works like this. Great attitude, great results. Good attitude, good results. Fair or average attitude, fair or average results.
All the years of their
Poor
lives.
attitude. You can do the
Poor
same
results.
thing, and you can do it. So each of us shapes his or her own life, and to an altogether unexpected extent, the shape and texture, the quality or the lack of quality of our lives is determined by our habitual attitude. That sounds simple, doesn't it? But it's not quite that easy. For most of us, learning this new habit takes time.
You've got to decide that.
But once it becomes a habit and part of our lives, our world will change as dramatically as would walking from a dark cave into the bright light of day.
Either will do.
Most people never think about their attitudes at all. For most of them, it's a matter of beginning each day in neutral. Their attitudes are neither good nor bad, but are poised to react to whatever stimuli they encounter. If the stimulus is good, they'll reflect it. If it's bad, they'll reflect that too.
Now ask
They're
yourself,
chameleons,
who in my
and
line
they
of
go
work
through
is
their
now
days
raising
reacting
money?
to whatever confronts
If you know,
them.
you'll have a
And
good
these are the
idea what
people
you
of
have
our
to do in order to earn
environment.
it.
That's why it's so
This is
important
exactly how
for
men
us
and
to
women
control
move from
our
their ranks
attitudes,
into positions
to make
of
sure
top
they're
authority
excellent
with
or good.
corresponding incomes.
A person with a poor
I have
attitude
no way
toward
of knowing
learning,
your
for
line of
example,
business,
isn't going to learn
but
very much.
regardless of the business,
I know you can think of examples of this in your own life. If we take the attitude that we can't do something, we generally will not do it. An attitude of failure, and we're whipped before we start.
Dedicated, able person.
It was William James of Harvard, the founder of psychology in America, who said human beings can alter their lives
Some of the top
by altering their
executives in the nation
attitudes and
today were
mind.
once accountants, shipping clerks.
In trying to
struggling lawyers,
describe the attitude that's worked so well for me over the years,
salespeople
I
in the
found
field,
myself using
sales
two
clerks,
important
mailroom
words:
clerks, stenographers,
gratitude
mechanics.
and
You can't
expectancy.
think of a position from which people have
First,
not
I'm
climbed to the
grateful
top.
for the
Now
opportunity to
understand
live
what
on
I'm
this
going to
beautiful
say,
and
and it'll bring you
astonishing
and yours
planet Earth.
everything
I
you
wake
want.
up with a sense of
It's
gratitude
not
in
the
the
job.
morning.
It's the person.
Secondly,
It's not
I
your present
expect the best.
circumstances which count.
I
It's the
expect to reach the
circumstances
goals
you
I
make up your
establish for
mind to
myself,
achieve
about
them.
which we'll talk a good deal more
The
later
only
in the
limit on
program.
your income
I find
is
the
you.
idea of fulfilling
And
those
the
goals
income you
agreeable,
decide upon can
hence
be achieved
the attitude
within
of
the framework of
expectancy.
your present work, industry,
I know
or
the
profession,
world will give
where
me
you
back
already
what
have
I
a
put
start
out
and
in
a
the way of
place.
attitude.
If not
So it's
there,
up to me.
it can be found
I'm
somewhere else.
responsible.
All you need is the
There are
plan, the
millions of
roadmap,
human
the
beings
courage to
living
press on to
narrow,
your
darkened,
destination, knowing in
frustrated
advance
lives, living
that there'll be
defensively
problems
simply
and
because they
setbacks.
take a defensive, doubtful
Knowing also
attitude
that
toward
nothing on earth
themselves,
will stand in the way
and
of
as a
plan,
result, toward life in
backed by
general.
persistence and determination.
A person with a poor attitude becomes a
With the
magnet for
income written
unpleasant
down that you intend
experiences.
to earn,
When
spend
those
a part of each
experiences
day
come,
thinking
as
of
they
ways
must
in which
because
you
of
can
his
increase your
attitude, they
service,
tend to
knowing that
reinforce
you have
his
only
poor
to manage
attitude,
this,
thereby
and the
bringing
income will
more
take care of
problems
itself.
and so on. The person becomes an example of
Since the money
self-generating,
you want to earn is more than
doom-fulfilling
you're now
prophecy.
receiving,
And
you're
it's
part
all
of
a
the
matter,
progress to
believe it or
find
not,
ways of increasing
of
your
attitude.
service
We
until the
get
gap
what
has
we
been bridged.
expect,
And more than
our
bridged.
outlook on life is a
Look at
kind
your
of
card with the three
paintbrush,
amounts
and with
written
it
on
we
it.
paint our world.
By setting a
It
financial
can be
goal,
bright
you're
and filled with
demonstrating
hope
faith.
and satisfaction.
You'll find that you'll begin to
Or it
become
can
what
be
others
dark
call
and
lucky.
gloomy.
You'll begin to get good
Lugubrious.
hunches and ideas. You'll take far
It's
more
hard to
interest
convince
in
people
everything about
sometimes
your
that the
work and
world
your
they
company.
experience is a
You'll see
reflection of their
opportunities in
attitude.
your work
They
and
take the
environment
attitude
you
that if
never
people
noticed
would only be
before.
nice to them, they'd be
In fact,
nice in
you'll soon
return.
discover
They're like the
you're no
person
longer the
sitting in
same
front of
person.
the cold stove.
You'll care less about
waiting
how
for the
others are doing
heat.
their jobs and concern yourself
Until they
more
put
with
in the
manner
fuel,
which
there's
you
not
do
going to be
yours.
any heat.
By
It's
your
up to them
example,
to act
you'll
first.
inspire others to do
It
their
has to
jobs
start
better.
somewhere.
Have
Let it
faith in
begin
yourself and
with
the quiet,
us.
firm inner knowledge that you can and will accomplish your goals.
Attitude is a reflection of the person inside. Consider for a moment the people who go sailing through life from one success to another, and who, when they occasionally fail at something, shrug it off and head right out again.
Is an effect.
No matter what a person does, wherever you find a person doing an outstanding job and getting outstanding results, you'll find a person with a good attitude.
It's a tool with which
These people take the attitude toward themselves that they can accomplish what they set out to accomplish. They take the attitude that achievement is the natural order of things, and it is
necessary to modern life.
that there's no good reason on earth why they can't be as successful, as competent as anyone else. They have a healthy attitude toward themselves, and as a result, toward life and the things they want to accomplish.
Reverses the whole picture.
Because of that, they accomplish some remarkable things and come to be called successful and outstanding and brilliant.
It's good to have
and
money
lucky
and the
and
things
so
money
on.
can buy, but it's
They're
good
quite
too
frequently no
to check
smarter or
up
more
once in a while and
talented
make
than
sure
most
that you
other
haven't
people.
lost the
But they
things
have
that
the right
money can't
attitude.
buy.
They find their
Every person
accomplishments
should know
not too
happiness
difficult
in his or
simply
her
because
work
it
and
seems
home
so few
prosperity.
others are really trying,
These things can
or really
and should
believe in
be yours.
themselves.
Play this message
As
as
to
often
luck,
as you can during the next week.
forget it.
Fix your plans.
Luck
firmly
is
in
what
your
happens
mind
when
and
preparedness
relax.
meets opportunity.
Keep cool and calm.
And
Be
opportunity
as serene as you
is there all the
possibly can
time.
be. You have nothing to worry about.
A person can
Right
be very
now, you may have
efficient
no
at his or
idea
her
how
work,
the additional
but if the
income you seek is
corresponding
going to
excellent
come to you,
attitude
nor
isn't
how you're going
present,
to save the amount you
well,
want
the
to
person's
save
a failure.
or
A
how you
robot can do a
possibly
great
arrange for the
job,
retirement income
but
you've
only a
decided
human
on. That isn't
being can
important.
ennoble work with a
Remember
great
that
attitude,
only
and by
the
so doing
important
touch
things
it with
that
the
you know
magic of
what you want.
humanness,
If
make
you
it come
do,
alive and
you
sing,
will become,
make it truly
you must
worthwhile.
become
That, my
what
friend,
you think about.
makes the difference.
Be realistic.
Successful
about your
people
financial
come in all
goals.
sizes,
Or you reach
shapes,
them even
ages,
in
and
higher
colors,
goals.
and in
Trying to
widely
jump too
varying
far too
degrees
soon
of
can often
intelligence and
result in
education,
confusion, tension,
but they have
worry.
one thing in common.
Take your growth in
They
sensible,
expect
logical
more
steps.
good out of
Remembering
life
the
than
big thing
bad.
is that you know
They
what you
expect
want,
to succeed
but you realize
more
your
often than they
rewards will
fail,
match your service.
and they do.
That is, that you must devise
Now there are things
ways
you
and
want,
means of actually
worthwhile
becoming the
things.
person who
Take
is
the
worth
attitude
amount
that
of
there
money
are a lot more
you've
reasons
established
why
for
you
yourself.
can reach those goals than
Now, a
fail
person
in the
may be
attempt.
worth more than he
Go
or
after
she is
them.
getting for a
Work
while.
at it.
But
Keep
the
your
two will
attitude
match up. They
positive,
have to.
cheerful, and
In
expectant.
fact, unless a person
And
is
you'll
worth
get
more
them.
than he
And
or
as
she
you
is
do, you'll
receiving,
grow to new
well,
plateaus
they
and be
can't
able to
move ahead.
accomplish still
They're
more.
receiving all their
And
worth.
remember this, our
It all gets
environment,
back to the great law
the
that
world in
controls
which we
everything
find
in the universe,
ourselves
the
living
cause
and
and
working,
effect.
is
The
a
cause
mirror
must precede
of
the
our
effect, or the
attitudes and
effect cannot
expectations.
occur. This is
If
why
we
people
feel
try
that
to
our
get something
environment
for
could
nothing
stand
or
some
only fool
improvement,
themselves,
we can bring about
earning
that
the
change for the
disillusionment
better
and
by
frustration
improving
they must
our
one day
attitude. The world
You
plays
can
no
have what you
favorites.
want.
It's impersonal. It
You
doesn't
need only
care who
make up your
succeeds
mind.
or who fails, nor does it care if we change. Our attitude toward life doesn't affect the world and the people in it nearly so much as it affects us. It would be impossible to even estimate the number of jobs that have been lost. Promotions or
I'm
good
sure you'll
grades
agree
missed,
we acquire the
sales
skills for
lost, or
living
marriages
successfully
ruined
through knowledge.
by poor attitudes.
Knowledge properly
But you
applied
can number in
is
the
power.
millions the jobs
And
which
knowledge
are
is
held and
available
hated,
to
the
everybody.
marriages which are tolerated but
The
unhappy,
degree of a person's
the
ignorance
parents
will
and
determine
children
his
who
or
fail
her
to
place in the
understand
world.
and love one another.
Everyone is
All
born
because of
ignorant and
people who
must
are
for a
waiting
time
for the
live in
world and
ignorance.
others to
But
change
remember
toward
this,
them.
anyone who remains
They don't
ignorant
understand that what they're
is only
getting is a
himself or
reflection
herself
of
to blame.
themselves. Nothing can change.
An
until we
illiterate
do.
person in our
When
society
we change
is in the
our
lowest
world
level of our
change,
social heap.
the answer
And
is
from that
attitude.
starting point, think once again of society as that pyramid with
How
a
does one
broad
develop a
base
good
gradually
attitude?
rising to a high point.
The same way one develops any
We know
other
that the
factor.
great majority of
Practice.
people are to be found in the
One
bottom
good way is
large
to stick a
layers of
small
this
sign
pyramid.
on the
The
bathroom
higher you
mirror on
go,
which is
the
printed the
smaller
word
the layers.
attitude.
At the very
That way
peak
you'll
of the
see it
pyramid,
first thing
you'll
every
find the
morning.
world's
You
most
might have
brilliant
another one in your
people.
car and at your
We may
place
not
of
have
work.
the
We
native
need to smile
equipment to
more,
reach the
speak to
topmost
people, go
pinnacle,
out to
perhaps,
people.
although we certainly
Everything
might.
in the world we
But
want
we
to
do
do or
control
get done, we
where
must
we
do
will
with
live
and
between
through
the
people.
very top
Every
and
dollar
the
we
very
will
bottom.
ever earn
We
must
can
come
most
from
assuredly
people.
get into the
Everything
top 5%,
worthwhile, the
let's say
person
top
we
5
love and with
layers of
whom
the
we want to
pyramid.
spend the rest of our
And from
life
here we can live
is
well
a
and
human being
successfully
with
all
whom
the
we
days
must
of our
interact.
lives.
Our
It
children are
isn't that we want to be
individuals, each
over
different
anyone.
from any other
It's just
person who
having
ever
the
lived.
ambition and good sense.
And what affects
to
them
not
most
settle for
is our
anything less,
attitude,
to want to
the
live the
loving
best we
kindness
can.
they see and feel
Remember, the
whenever
higher
we're
you climb
around
on a
them.
pyramid, the farther
You
you
begin
can
to
see,
develop and hold an
the
attitude
fresher
that
the
says
air,
yes
and the less
to life
crowded it becomes.
and the world.
Another
You'll be
rewarding
as
thing about
astonished
climbing
at the changes
is that
you'll
as we
see.
climb, we help most of those associated
Someone
with
once
us to
said,
climb too.
life is dull. Only
One of the
to
most
dull
important
people.
ladders leading
It's true.
to the top,
Of course,
is knowledge.
It's also
The
true
more
that
we
life
know,
is
the
interesting
higher we can
only to
move.
interesting
But
people.
where does a person
and life
begin?
is successful.
No one
only
person can
for
know
successful
everything. In
people.
fact, our store
We
of
must
knowledge
be
is
the
growing
epitome,
far too
the
fast for anyone to
embodiment.
keep up with it.
We must
It's like
radiate
walking into the
success.
Library of
Before
Congress
it'll come
with
to
its
us.
millions of
We
volumes
must
and
first
trying to
become
decide
mentally,
which
from an
single book to
attitude
read first.
standpoint, the
Knowing
people
that
we
even
wish
if you
to
lived
become.
1,000 years, you couldn't
Many
read
years
the
ago,
book.
a famous Los Angeles
Unfortunately, the answer
restaurateur
to
was
this
asked by a
perplexing problem
newspaper
is known.
reporter, "When did you become successful?" And he
A person
replied,
should begin
"I was successful
with
when
the
I was
study
dead
of
broke.
his language.
I knew what I wanted to do, and I
then
knew
to
I'd
his
do it.
general
It was
area
only
of
a matter of
interest.
time."
2 steps in that order.
He had a successful attitude long before the success he sought had become a reality. First, the great German philosopher and writer Goethe put it this way: not enough people realize you can do something, our ability to use our language, which will determine our place. But let me prove my point by giving you a test, and which will also, if you will conscientiously go about the test, and concentrate on it every day, you'll find yourself becoming lucky as the uninitiated call it. All sorts of wonderful things will begin happening. Your life will show you what a great attitude can mean. So here's the test.
He or she proclaims
treat every person with whom you come in contact as the most important person on earth.
Shaw's play Pygmalion, later adapted into
You do that for three excellent reasons.
Is an extreme
One,
example of what
as far as every person is concerned,
our use
he
of
or
the
she is the
language
most important person
is the
on
one
earth.
thing we cannot
Two,
hide.
because that's the way human beings
Many
ought
years
to
ago,
treat
the
each other.
graduating class of a
And
large
three,
university
by
was
treating
given
everyone
an
this way,
examination in
we
English
begin to form
vocabulary.
an important
The test
habit.
scores were graded into
There's
groups of
nothing in the
5%
world that
each.
men, women,
The
and
top
children want
5%
to
and
need
so on
more
to the bottom.
than self-esteem,
At regular
the feeling
intervals
that
during
they're
the next 20
important, that they're
years,
recognized,
questionnaires
that
were
they're
sent to
needed,
the surviving
that they
graduates,
count and
asking
are
them their
respected.
occupations,
They will give
incomes,
their
and so
love,
on.
their
Without
respect,
a single
and their
exception,
business to the person
those who
fills
scored
this
highest
need,
on the
even
vocabulary
if it's a
test
short
were in
encounter.
the top income group.
Have you ever noticed
While
that the
those
higher
who
you
scored
go in
lowest
any
were in the
organization of
lowest income
value,
group?
the nicer the people
Reader's
should
Digest
become.
published an article by
It works
Blake
this way.
Clark entitled
The
"Words
bigger the
Can Work
people,
Wonders for You."
the easier it
In
is
he
to
wrote,
talk to them,
tests
to get
of
along
more
with
than
them, and work with them.
350,000 persons
So
from
they
all walks
naturally
of life
matriculate to the
show
top.
that more often than
It's their
any other
attitudes.
measurable characteristic,
And the people with great
knowledge of the
attitudes just
exact
naturally
meanings of a
gravitate
large
to the
number of
top
words
whatever business or
accompanies
department they're in.
outstanding success.
They don't have great attitudes
He
because
also
of their
mentioned the work done
positions.
in this field by
They
scientist
have their
Johnson
positions,
O'Connor, and
largely
gave O'Connor's
because of
best
their great
illustration
attitudes.
of the importance of vocabulary.
For the purposes of
Tests
this
were given
test,
to executive
act
and
toward others in
supervisory
exactly the
personnel
same manner
in
that you want
39
them
large
to act toward you.
manufacturing plants. The
Treat the
results
members
showed
of your
that every one of
family
them
as the very important people they really are,
that go with
the most
leadership.
important in the world.
Differences in
Carry
their
out into the
vocabulary
world each
ratings,
morning
however,
the kind of
were
attitude
definite
you'd
and
have
dramatic.
if you were the most
Presidents
successful
and
person
vice
on earth.
presidents averaged
Notice how quickly it
236
develops into a
out of a
habit.
possible 272
And almost immediately a
points.
change will be noticed.
Managers averaged
Irritations that used to
168.
frustrate you begin to
Superintendents,
disappear.
140.
When some less informed person gives you a bad
114.
time,
Floor
don't let
bosses,
his poor attitude
86.
infect yours.
In virtually every
Keep yours
case,
in hand. Keep it
vocabulary
good.
correlated
Keep
with executive
cool
level
above it all
and
and
income.
smiling. If someone cuts
Children
in
with the
front of
best
your car
vocabularies
or
get the
acts
best
in
grades
any
in
other
school.
manner that shows a lack
salesman in
of
his
courtesy,
50s who was in the
don't
bottom
react as he
5% in
would.
vocabulary,
Smile
worked
it off.
himself into the top 45%.
Destructive
and is now
emotions
vice
such as
president
anger,
of his
hatred,
firm.
or jealousy don't hurt
An
others.
encouraging fact
They
to
hurt
keep in
you.
mind, Clark went
They
on
can
to
make
say,
your
is
life
that when we
miserable.
master
They can
one
make you
word,
sick.
we find that we've added
Forgive
several
everyone
others.
who ever
It's
hurt
as
you.
if the new one is a
Really
nucleus
forgive
of
them.
thought around
And
which
then forgive
whirl
yourself.
numerous related ideas
That's
that
all
we now
past.
come to understand.
Stewing over it,
Deliberately learning 10
exhuming
new
it,
words
can only make
we
you
pick
sick.
up probably
Forgive
90
and
more,
forget
almost
it.
without
Get
realizing.
rid of it. You've risen
You
above
see,
that sort of
understanding
thing.
our language is the key to studying and learning everything else.
And as you develop a great
Literally
attitude, you'll
millions of people
probably
are
realize
being
that
held
you've
back
already
in life
placed
simply
yourself
because
on the
they've never
road to
taken
what
the
you
time
seek.
to learn their
You're
own
well on your
language.
way. It makes no
Let's
difference
face
how
it, from the
successful
earliest
you may have been in
times,
the
the
past.
favorite
You'll be
class of
delighted
people
with the
has
ease and
always
comfort
been
of
the
your new
educated
life.
class. They
The
can make
bad or poor
themselves
attitudes of
recognized
others can be as
instantly anywhere but
infectious
the
as the
simple
common
expedient of
cold.
speaking a few
It's
words.
important that we look on them
Our language,
in
more
this
than
light
anything else,
as
determines
infectious
the extent of our
conditions that
knowledge.
can only end
You see,
by hurting
everything
and
in the
annoying
vast
us if we
storehouse
allow
of knowledge
ourselves
has
to
a
catch
name, a
them.
label.
Like
These
a doctor,
names, these
often
words
works
make
with
up the
people with
language.
infectious
The more
conditions.
words we know and
We
can
must keep
properly use,
ourselves
the more
healthy.
knowledge we have.
We simply don't have time
Of
for
this
that
you can
sort
be
of
sure.
thing.
A person's
Whoever
knowledge
started
and
the
his language
cliche
go
"life's
together.
too short"
It's
certainly knew
almost
what he or she was
impossible for
talking
one
about.
to
It
argue
really
with
is
the
too
other.
short, much too short,
Before
to
we
spend
move to
any
the
of our
second
valuable
point,
time
which is knowledge, you
mimicking
feel
the
that
attitudes of
general
others, unless
Make it
they're
a point
good.
to acquire books that will help
A
you
great
improve your
attitude does much more
vocabulary.
than turn on the
You'll
lights
find
in our world. It
valuable
seems
additions
to
to your
magically
library
connect us to
and
all sorts
enormous
of
help in your career.
serendipitous opportunities that were
In
somehow
addition to
absent before the
vocabulary,
change.
effective
Maybe
English
that's what
usage
people
is
mean when
important.
they say we're
This
lucky.
entails learning the parts
Suddenly
of
we
speech
do
what they
find
mean,
ourselves
how they
getting
should
the
be used
so-called
to
breaks,
construct
but it's
sentences.
really nothing more than
This
this
too
new
is a reflection
connection
of
with the
your
world
present
that comes
knowledge.
with a great attitude.
Right now,
We find
mentally
ourselves
rate
doing
yourself
more
on
and
your
doing it
use
in
of
less
the language.
time. We
Would
put
you say
ourselves
your rating
directly
would
in the
be
path of all
excellent,
kinds of serendipitous
good,
happenings.
fair,
When you begin to develop a better
poor?
attitude, you should realize that you've
If you
already
rated
placed yourself
yourself
in the top
you're in the top
5%
1/10
of the
1%
the most
of the
successful
population.
people on earth.
If you
You've
said
placed
good,
yourself on
you're
the road to what
definitely
you seek.
in the top 5%.
You've prepared the ground.
If you
You've
rated
only to
yourself
plant the
fair,
seed.
get a good book on English
Now,
from
in
your
summing
bookstore
up,
and study it.
here are a few
And if you
points to
rated
keep in
yourself as
mind.
poor, take
First,
a home study or
is
night
our
course
attitude at the beginning of a difficult task, which more than anything else will bring about a successful outcome.
Of knowing their language.
Secondly,
the importance of speech.
Our attitudes toward others determine their attitudes toward us.
On the planet.
We're all interdependent. The success we achieve in life will depend largely on how well we relate to others.
Shakespeare to Hemingway.
Thirdly, before you can achieve the kind of life you want,
So when you're
you must
English,
think,
You're studying one of the world's greatest and most interesting
conduct
subjects.
yourself in all of your affairs
If you think you don't have time to
as would
study,
the person
listen to
you
what
wish to
Louis
become.
Shores has to say about this.
Keep a mental picture of that person before you as often as you can during the day.
Each day for reading.
And fourthly, remember that the higher you go in any organization of value, the better the attitude you find.
No matter how
And
busy
that attitudes are not the result of success.
Half a book a week.
Success
2 books a month.
is the result of great
a year,
attitudes.
And 1,000 in a
And finally, the
lifetime.
deepest craving of the human being is for recognition
and it takes
and
just 15
self-esteem,
minutes a day.
to be needed, to feel important, to be
let's get to our
recognized and
second area
appreciated.
of study.
That includes our loved
general
ones
interest.
and all the people with whom we come in contact during our day.
Interested more than in other subjects.
To make these
This is true of
important
the
principles a
salesperson,
habit-knit
doctor,
part of our
architect,
lives,
executive, or
here are
student.
some suggestions.
Reading in this area
Since
is for
our
profit.
minds can hold
And we
only
should
one
read
thought
for
at a
pleasure as
time,
well.
make the thoughts
Once
you
we have a
hold
regular program going
constructive
along
and
to improve our
positive.
knowledge of our language,
Look for the
we should
best
begin
in
a
people and
systematic study
ideas.
of the
Be
field
constantly
which
alert
interests
for
us
new
most, and
ideas
which
you
will
can put to
reach
use
our
in your
goals
life.
that much sooner.
Don't
I
waste
received a letter
time
from one of our
talking
radio
about
listeners,
your
a woman,
problems to
saying it
people
was
who
her
can't
ambition
solve
to
them,
write poetry.
or your health,
There was a
unless
telephone
it's
number on the
good,
letter, so
or you're
I called
talking
her.
to your doctor.
I asked her how long
It
she'd
won't
been
help
studying
you.
poetry and
It
what kind of
cannot help
collection of
others.
published poetry she had.
Radiate the
She
attitude
told me
of
she didn't have a
well-being
single
and
book on
confidence,
poetry,
the
and had
attitude
never
of
read
the
it
person who
in
knows where he or she is going. You'll
I
find
mention
all
this
sorts
because
of
it's so
good
often
things
the
happening
case.
to you.
People will
And
say they want
lastly,
to do a particular thing.
Treat
but
everyone
the
with whom you
question
come in
quickly reveals
contact
that it's a whim,
as the most
not a
important
real
person
and
on
important
earth.
goal.
Start this
Interested in
habit,
boating, we
practice
subscribe
it
to boating
consistently,
magazines,
and you'll do
usually
it
have a collection
and
of books on
benefit
boating.
from it for
Stories
the
of
rest
sea,
of your
a
life.
collection of the works of Conrad.
Thank
and
you.
we usually know down to the bilge pumps and mooring lines exactly the kind of boat we want. I know because I have such a collection. I also have a wonderful collection of books on English, including poetry, great fiction, the great books, several excellent dictionaries, and
In the year
a number of books on
1843,
writing and style,
a man
and
was born who was to have a
avoid.
profound effect upon the
Our
lives of
company has
millions of
published
people.
one of the finest programs.
His
on
name was
vocabulary
Russell
building ever put
Herman
together.
Conwell.
And you can listen to it.
He became a lawyer,
as you drive
then a
your
newspaper
car.
editor,
Other
and
motorists
finally a
might think you're a
clergyman.
bit batty, but
It was during his church
in the
career
best
that
way
an
possible
incident
by
occurred
listening
which was to
and
change
reading
his
fine
life
vocabulary
and the lives of
of the
countless
English
others.
language. Most languages can number their
One day a
words
group
under
of young
200,000.
people came to Dr. Conwell at his
English
church and asked him
has
if
more
he'd
than
be willing to
600,000,
instruct them in
and
college
it's still growing
courses.
every day.
They all wanted a college
None of us can
education
learn
but
them
lacked
all,
the money to
although
pay for
professors
it.
of English come very
He
close.
told them to let him think
Incidentally,
about it
the number 10
and come
person
back in a few
country in
days.
the use of his language is the corporation
After they
president.
left, an
And that's
idea
no
began to
accident.
form in Dr. Conwell's
Our
mind.
ability to
He
translate
asked
our
himself,
thoughts and ideas
why
into
couldn't there
words
be
in
a
a powerful
fine
and effective
college
way
for poor
is an
but deserving
inextricably
young
linked
people?
to our growth in the world of
And
business.
before very
or any
long,
other
the idea
organization.
consumed him.
In
Why not
addition to
indeed?
English,
It
each
was
of
a
us should have
project
good
worthy of
working knowledge world history,
100%
and
dedication,
especially the history of our own
commitment,
country and the history
and
of the
almost
idea
single-handedly,
of human
Dr.
freedom.
Conwell raised several
Millions of
million
Americans
dollars,
don't know how
with
truly
which he
fortunate
founded
they are to
Temple
be able to
University,
openly criticize
today one of the
their
country's
government
leading
and its leaders.
schools.
To be
He
able to
raised
bring
the money
suit
by
against
giving more
public
than
officials,
6,000
to call
lectures
an
all over the
attorney of their
country,
choice,
and in
in
each one
case
of
of
them he
arrest
told a
and be
story
judged
called
by a jury of their
Acres
peers.
of Diamonds.
Did you know that
It was
as
a
far
true
as is
story,
known,
which had
there has
affected
never
him
been a
very deeply,
sentence of
and it had the
innocence
same
in the
effect on his
Soviet court.
audiences. The
If
money
you
he
go to
needed
trial
to
in
build the
Russia,
college
believe me, you're
came
guilty,
pouring in.
and you're going to prison or
The
a
story
work
was
camp.
the account of an African
In
farmer
hundreds of
who heard
countries,
tales
you
about
could be
other farmers
subjected to
who had made
torture without
millions by
recourse.
discovering diamond
My wife and I
mines.
were talking to a couple
These
in
tales
South
so
Africa some
excited the
years ago, a
farmer
white couple,
that he could hardly
and they
wait
said
to
to
sell
us
his
with
farm
feeling,
and go
"My
prospecting for
God,
diamonds
when the plane
himself.
lands in the United
So he
States,
sold the farm
you can
and
smell
spent the rest
freedom."
of his life wandering the African continent, searching
Americans, believe it or
unsuccessfully
not,
for the
don't
gleaming
know
gems
anything
which
about
brought
the
such high
idea
prices
of
on the
personal
markets of the
liberty,
world.
nor how
Finally, the
difficult
story
it was to
goes,
come by,
worn
nor
out
how
and in a fit
precious
of
it is,
despondency,
nor do
he
they
threw
have the
himself into a
foggiest
river
notion
and
of their
drowned.
true options and opportunities.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, or farm in this case, the man who had bought
I
his
think a good
farm happened to be
personal
crossing
library
the
is
small
essential.
stream
It
on the
should
property
contain good books
when suddenly
and
there
a
was a
dozen or
bright
so
flash of
excellent
blue
tape
and
cassette
red light from the
programs.
stream bottom.
The tape cassette is
He
the
bent
greatest
down, picked
idea
up
for
the
learning
stone,
since the
it was a
invention
good
of the printing
sized
press.
stone,
It's
and
effortless,
admiring it,
yet so
later
effective.
put it on his fireplace
When you
mantel
listen
as
to
an
human
interesting
voice, you're learning
curiosity.
the way you learned most of what you
Several
know.
weeks later, a
It's the
visitor
most
picked
natural
up
way
the
to learn.
stone,
You
looked closely at it, hefted it in his hand, and nearly fainted. He asked the farmer if he knew what he'd found.
And perhaps
when the farmer said no, that he thought it was a piece of crystal, the visitor told him he had found one of the largest diamonds ever discovered.
Dinner table, so that the entire
the farmer had trouble believing that. He told the man that his creek was full of such stones, not as large perhaps as the one smelled metal, but homes anymore. Well, they were sprinkled generously throughout the creek bottom. Needless to say, the farm the first farmer had sold so that he might find a diamond mine turned out to be the most productive diamond mine on the entire African continent. And as far as we know, the first farmer had owned, free and clear, acres of diamonds, but had sold them for practically nothing in order to look for them elsewhere. Well, the moral is clear. If the first farmer had only taken the time to study and prepare himself, to learn what diamonds looked like in their rough state, and since he had already owned a piece of the African continent, to thoroughly explore the property he had before looking elsewhere, all of his wildest dreams would have come true. Now, the thing about this story that so profoundly affected Dr. Conwell and subsequently millions of others was the idea that each of us is at this moment standing in the middle of his or her own acres of diamonds. Or just fall by the wayside. If we'll only have the wisdom and patience to intelligently and effectively explore the work in which we're now engaged, to explore ourselves, we'll usually find the riches we see, whether they be financial or intangible or both. Because those around before we go running off to what we think are greener pastures, let's make sure that our own is not just as green or perhaps even greener. It's been said that if the other guy's pasture appears to be greener than ours, it's quite possible that it's getting better care. Besides, while we're looking at other pastures, other people are looking at ours. Let me make an important point. There are few things more pitiful to my mind than the person who wastes his life running from one thing to another, forever looking for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and never staying with one thing long enough to find it. No matter what your goal may be, perhaps the road to it can be found in the very thing you're now doing. It wasn't until he was completely paralyzed by polio and forced to reach into the rich resources of his mind that a courageous farmer got the idea of producing exceptionally good meat products on his farm. From that idea, one of the country's most successful meatpacking companies was born. His farm contained acres of diamonds, too. He just never had to dig for them before. Your mind is your richest resource. Let it thoroughly explore the possibilities lurking in what you're presently doing before turning to something new. I say that because there were probably good reasons for your having chosen your present work in the beginning. Far too much knowledge. If there weren't, and if you're unhappy in the field you're in, well, then perhaps it's time for some serious exploration with our general area of interest. Dr. Russell Conwell's life is a living example of the importance of a willingness to change, one that on his own pasture has been thoroughly explored. I said that Dr. Conwell began as a lawyer, then later changed to become a newspaper editor, before he finally found his true calling as a clergyman and the founder of a great university. Will determine our income and our future. Every kind of work has such opportunity lurking within it. The opportunities are there now, clamoring to be noticed, but they cannot speak or print signs for us to read. Our part of the bargain is to look at our work with new eyes, with the eyes of creation, its original dimensions. It's estimated that the average person said, "It is our duty as men and women to proceed as though limits to our abilities do not exist. We are collaborators in creation." Many popular magazines publish features. The man I knew in Arizona began with a small gas station. One day sitting at his desk and watching through the window while one of his young attendants filled up his gas tank, years of learning. He watched the customer while he stood about waiting for the job to be finished. It dawned upon him that that man had money in his pocket, and there were things he needed, or wanted, that he'd pay for if they were conveniently displayed where he could see them. So he began adding things: fishing tackle, then fishing licenses, hunting and camping equipment, rifles, shotguns, ammunition, hunting licenses.